Greetings everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Captain Ryan. Today's video comes to us courtesy of Baruch Magur. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so I'm just going to call him Baruch for the rest of the battle. Baruch is playing in the Tier 5 premium and infamous Japanese destroyer, the Kamikaze R. Kamikaze R is infamous? Why? Well, that's because it is effectively a pre-nerf Minakaze. If you're new to the game and you're not sure what that means, well, the Minakaze used to have some particularly good set of skills and abilities. Namely, it had very good, quick 7-kilometer torpedoes, or slower but longer range 10-kilometer torpedoes of very, very low concealment. And that meant it could effectively get where it needed to go, drop a bunch of torpedoes, have a very, very fast torpedo reload with both of its different kinds of torpedoes. But of course, Wargaming, realizing very OP ship, changed all those things, but Wargaming's policy says they can't change individual characteristics of premium ships, and the Kamikaze and Kamikaze R are the premium versions. Now, of course, the Kamikaze R, specified by the R project, was the free-to-earn. You could earn it like the Graf Spee through a set of missions, although the Graf Spee was a campaign. And while I don't particularly like the Kamikaze, and I know a lot of people do, I do like the camouflage pattern on that boat. Man, that thing is just pretty to look at. As the battle gets underway here, I cut out the first several minutes of this game because it's incredibly boring to watch. Nothing going on with our hero, or just in general, the team itself. And the battle is the straight map, it's standard battle mode. The teams are pretty equal as far as what they have available to them. At this point in the battle, the enemy team has managed to kill 2 of the 3 destroyers on Baruch's team, leaving Baruch all alone in the Kamikaze. And while the Kamikaze is a decent destroyer, it's a decent torpedo boat. It doesn't really do well in a gunfight. However, something that people forget that the Minakaze and the Kamikaze both have is guns. And while they aren't the best guns, they do have 4 of them, and as long as they're pointed in the direction of the enemy and you're already spotted, you might as well open up on them. Enemy Wix up here has managed to secure a kill on 1 of the 2 carriers on Baruch's team. This is a Tier 5 maximum battle, and there are 2 carriers per team. Not the best situation if you're in the Kamikaze or the Minakaze, because, let's face it, it's a Japanese torpedo boat. It doesn't have very good anti-aircraft. So this Wix manages to secure that kill on 1 of the carriers, and that's going to make things really difficult for the rest of the team. And now you can see Baruch is opening up with his guns, something that a lot of Japanese destroyer captains just will not do when they absolutely should. You see that Wix is low enough health that if Baruch wanted to get up and engage him, he probably could. He managed to knock out his engine, and that's a significant problem for that destroyer. But now, as you can see, the distance opening up, Baruch can just go ahead, disengage, stop firing, and drop back off detectability. The Minakaze and Kamikaze's guns are not good in a close quarters knife fight. Unless that guy had less than, say, 2,000 health to begin with, these guns are absolutely not the kind of guns you want to go into a close range knife fight, because just look how slow they turn. They don't keep pace and track with the ship. Plus, the way they're configured and laid out, you really do have to give them time to change directions and readjust. Now, the enemy team is currently up on ships, but Baruch's team is putting pressure on the enemy's base. And it's important that they've done this because the team to the north end of the map near their base has pretty much disintegrated. And so the enemy is in prime position to be able to go and put pressure and start capping their base. However, because Baruch's team is putting pressure on the enemy's cap, the enemy is effectively being forced to deal with that situation. Yeah, they could challenge, they could push their base, but at this point in time, if they don't deal with the number of ships down at their own base, that could result in a significant loss for them. Specifically, letting the enemy cap out. Now Baruch fires off his torpedoes downrange at that Wix, who is approaching fairly quickly. And that Wix has got a lot of space, as you can see there, the way he spread them out. That is the downside to the Kamikaze and the Minakaze. There's not a lot of width in the torpedo spread, but didn't matter anyway. With all of the available space around, that Wix manages to find one of the torpedoes. Now, in spite of having the large gaps available, because they are only double launchers, the torpedoes on this ship do an excellent job when dealing with enemy battleships, because you can effectively create a very nice tight spread grouping of 6, or you can effectively put in a nice tight spread grouping of 6, with all 6 traveling down the same very narrow beam. Enemy October Revolution, pushing up there, managed to beach himself earlier. He's got himself backed off and he's turned around. Now he's going to come push around the headland of this island. Baruch's watching carefully. He's going to get his torpedoes away here, and he's staggering the launch times just ever so slightly. And you see there, he puts the last set farther out on the lead indicator. And that decision is going to come back and haunt him just a little bit as that guy pushes up. He's actually hugging that island a lot more than he's pushing out. But Baruch manages to connect with him, and he does cause flooding. Now pay attention to his damage counter, because that flooding is going to continue to go up. Now you'll notice Baruch is being detected, and that's partly because the October Revolution is so damn close coming around from that island. But if you paid attention to the minimap, you did see it there. What just popped up? That's right, it's the enemy destroyer. The enemy destroyer is still alive, and there Baruch takes a shot from the Mitsuki, who has popped up there. And now the Mitsuki's pushed in close enough to proximity detect Baruch, who's in his smokescreen, but you'll notice he's not sitting still in his smokescreen. Now that Mitsuki is going to turn and start maneuvering hard here. The Mitsuki, the Tier 5 Japanese destroyer, is a gunboat, but it's only got 2 guns. So, while it has a higher rate of fire, you can withstand a bit better an assault from Mitsuki than you can another kind of destroyer. Baruch manages to kill that October Revolution through flooding. I don't know what the deal with that ship was. It seems unlikely that he didn't have his damage control ability to put that flooding under control, but whatever, a kill's a kill, and at this point it's a much needed kill, because the enemy team has managed to narrow down this fight to 3 ships. 1 carrier, who is the only person on Baruch's team who's in a position to actually put pressure and reset the enemy's base capture. 1 battleship that's all the way down south dealing with the 2 enemy aircraft carriers. And Baruch, who's trying to put pressure on the enemy's base, but as you can see here, this Mitsuki is causing a significant problem for him. Now, in a gunfight between a Mitsuki and a Kamikaze, the Mitsuki's got a higher rate of fire, but again, he's only got 2 guns, and depending on how he's maneuvering, he's only got 1. Well, he's a little more accurate. That doesn't really much consolation if you're in that gunfight. So Baruch's going to go ahead and continue getting shots off there, but he's not particularly able to hit him, as the Mitsuki is turning and maneuvering hard. Friendly carrier manages to succeed in resetting the base capture progress there and takes out that October Revolution. Baruch manages to connect with yet another torpedo on a destroyer, and I always find that funny when you manage to torpedo an actively maneuvering destroyer with destroyer torpedoes, or battleship torpedoes especially, rather than somebody who's sitting in his smokescreen. Now here, paying attention, as you can see, enemy carriers are paying attention. They've sent dive bomber squadrons over to deal with Baruch, and Baruch's pretty low health, so those dive bombers, if they connect, could cause some significant problems. But you can see here, enemy battleship, pretty much a full health at this point. But look at this. This guy isn't even paying attention. This is where paying attention to your minimap, paying attention to your surroundings, pulling that gun camera back and right-clicking and then scanning the environment around you is very important, because this guy just lets this happen. That's right, Baruch manages to connect with his first 2 sets, and he's going to connect with his next 2 sets as well. managing to really cause the world of hurt on him and finishes him off by connecting with effectively 6 torpedoes. That battleship player really, really needs to learn to not be target fixated. And now they've managed to pull it back again. So now there are only 2 enemy ships left, and both of them are carriers, and we know where both of them are at thanks to the spotting mechanics. Of course, the carriers know full well that they're the only 2 left, and theoretically they could still win this because there are 2 of them. There's still 1 enemy carrier left, but they can pretty much guess where he's at based on where his planes are coming from and going back to. The enemy battleship, or the friendly battleship on Baruch's team, is a battleship and a much easier target, but right now these carrier players are solely focused on dealing with Baruch, who is a fairly significant threat to them. And it's nice to see that the carrier players are paying attention to that threat. It's a destroyer within 10 kilometers of you. You have him detected. Put the world of hurt on him. Do everything in your power to sink him, especially one that's low health like this. Now Baruch's going to go ahead and he's going to get his torpedoes off here at the Langley. The Langley, very, very slow boat, not a quick boat at all. Baruch's going to go ahead and open up with guns anyway. Again, his guns are already pointed that direction. Might as well. Something that a lot of people don't really realize why a destroyer captain might do this with high explosive is to set the carrier on fire. Now there is a captain skill that allows you to take and recover aircraft while your deck is on fire, but you have to take that skill in order to have that ability. Now Baruch manages to connect with those torpedoes. It's not like that Langley could maneuver or do anything to avoid that. And Baruch manages to earn himself his Kraken Unleashed in the game, and his first devastating strike in the game as well. And now the enemy team is down to just 1 carrier left. Of course, this carrier is a much faster ship than the Langley, and as a result, it is going to be a little difficult for Baruch to catch him. The Kamikaze and the Minakaze are not particularly fast destroyers, and if you're in a fast ship like this carrier, you can definitely delay the inevitable. And depending on how many teammates you have left around you, you can possibly prevent the inevitable by simply just running away. Now Baruch, maneuvering hard here, does manage to torpedo beats that torpedo, which he almost looked like he wasn't going to, but he is paying attention, which is important. Carrier bringing even more planes in, and again, this is another example of maybe delaying that turn just a little too long. You have to remember when you have the speed boost up on destroyers that you should consider slowing down when you make turns like that, because that speed boost causes your ship to drift, and that drifting can cause you to drift right into the path of torpedo, and as low health as Baruch is, that would have been the end of him. However, even if he died at this point, the enemy team down on points now, 1 ship left who's being shot at by the friendly battleship, and the friendly carrier still has some planes left. So Baruch's going to go ahead and get shots off there. He's earned himself his high caliber. He's earned himself his Confederate. Enemy carrier puts bombs on him, manages to cause problems here, sets him on fire. That would surely be the end of it, but no, Baruch manages to secure the kill there, earning 6 kills at the very end of this game. All in all, a very good game at the end, well played by Baruch, looking and reading a situation and dealing with the threats as they arise, dealing with the destroyers as priorities, and then dealing with the easier kill battleships, maneuvering hard to deal with the airplanes, and then again dealing with the unattentive and not paying attention ships. Overall, devastating strike, Confederate, Kraken Unleashed, and high caliber. Top of the team for XP earned at just over 1700 base XP. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe and follow button, leave a comment. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and the channel, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. Patreon supporters will receive additional perks and shoutouts. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, you can do so by following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.